Hi, folks. I hope you're well. Yeah. The situation with regards to the Vineyard Church and them wanting to speak to me about me doing videos. Okay. I've actually mentioned to the pastor something that's quite an interesting point. Many people will say nice things about the church and the speakers on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and wherever else they do. And you never hear complaints about that. They can mention people by name. But if they're saying something nice, oh, no. People never complain about that, do they? No. Okay? So what about complaining that I said something negative? Right, okay. Well, in their view, yeah. I just pointed out to the pastor that part of the reason why I talk about things on YouTube is because, for example, when he said the church is the plant, when talking about John 15, therefore he's saying the church is the vine, therefore the church has replaced the Son of God, which is ridiculous. It's a statement that's just absolutely preposterous. To add that, he didn't need to add it. He just added it to, I don't know. I don't know why he would have put that. It's a ridiculously stupid thing to put. But again, okay, whatever. It was done. And then for Matthew, the worship leader, to say that when the Lord said, all authority I have under heaven and earth, therefore go and make disciples, that what he then did, in between saying, therefore all authority I have, he gave all that authority to the apostles, to the disciples. Well, no, he didn't. So again, it's another statement that is a lie. And okay, why do you care that I've said things that you consider to be wrong in some way when you don't care that you're preaching to the people in church and you're saying things that are wrong? Why on earth is that it matters not that you say things that are wrong, that you say things that are, misleading, and you're misleading a church and you're saying things that are almost demonic. And that's okay. That doesn't need to be corrected. But you want to correct me in what I'm doing? Huh? Yeah. The reality is, sort out what you're doing and sort that out first, because you have a church. You wanted a church, you've got a church. Right? Yeah, Matthew wants to be a speaker. He wants to be a worship leader. Okay, you've got to be very, very careful in what you say. I don't have to be right now. I'm not a speaker. I'm not a worship leader. I don't do that. I don't prepare messages and then perfect them and practice them and do all that. And then still come out with things that are just, excuse me, what did you say? The whole point that you're practicing the message, the presentation of it, and you're practicing all of that, and you're trying to perfect it, and once you perfect it, you can then present it. Cool. But you leave things in that are, yeah. And you think that your priority should be to correct me? This is why the church is in a mess. It thinks lying to the church members, that's good. Disrespecting the Son of God is good. That's okay. If you're ignoring, if he says you pray to the Father, you worship the Father, you give glory to the Father, right? If he says it's the Father that gave the word, John 17, that's what he says, right? You're supposed to honor and glorify the Father. and you're saying, no, it's all about the Son, you are disrespecting the Son to... Look, the devil tempting the Son of God, that was disrespect. What you're doing in church is far worse. You're supposed to love him. You claim that you love him, and you don't care that you're disrespecting him. Right? I mean, to me, there are things that matter and there are things that shouldn't matter. Look, if I'm making videos, I'm saying things about the church that are just not true. That are just not true. Why would people get offended? They'd be stupid to get offended, wouldn't they, really? But if what I'm saying is true, deal with it. Now, I get it. And again, as I said, these people that run the churches, they're not of God. They're of this world. So therefore, the way they do things is very much of this world. And, if they're faced with a reality that is you're disrespecting the Son of God, honestly, their response is, and the people like it. The fact that people like it, the fact we're doing what every other church is doing, because this is a response you'll get. If I faced up to Archie and Jude and the other people who are leaders in that church and said, look, this is what you're doing, they'd say, yeah, but it's other churches, we're just doing what other churches do. Yeah, we're not doing anything that's extreme compared to other churches, are we? That's their defence. Or what they will say, which is also the bullshit that you hear from people, is, well, we're just obviously not ready. What do you mean you're not ready? You're leaders of a bloody church. If you're not ready, what are you doing being leaders of a church? Go and sit down in the front. Stop trying to be bloody leaders, pretending that you are leaders. Sit down and be taught. Because the reality is, the truth has always been this, you cannot give what you don't have. Right, that's truth. You cannot give. So if you don't have God, you can't give God, can you? That's why what you don't get in church is God. Because they don't have God, do they? They think they do because they have a Bible. They think that means that they have God. No, the Bible doesn't give you God. The Bible gives you the words that were said from God or to God. But it doesn't give you God. Now, you can say God is in the Bible. Yeah. But the Bible itself doesn't give you God. It depends upon who you are, your heart, as to whether you will find God in that or not. And in the majority of cases in church, the answer is not. They don't find God because they don't want to. And that's the reality. They don't want to find God. They find what they're looking for. Yeshua said, if you knock, it will be opened. If you knock, but first of all, what you've got to do? You've got to knock. Right? If you knock, it will be open. You've got to knock first. They don't knock. They don't want to come in. They don't want the door to be opened. They're perfectly happy doing what they're doing in church. Of course, they will make the statement saying, what we want is this, but we're not quite there yet. We're not ready yet. We're not being perfected yet. That's bullshit. It is. The reality is what people need to be at the point in their life of saying, I'm getting in the way. We are all getting in the way, and we need help to stop getting in the way. Rather than saying we're not ready. If you're not ready, stop pretending you're a leader. Because seriously, that's helping no one. Ain't helping you, and it's not helping the people out there. I said, no, I don't know. I don't know when Archie, when Jude, when all the other people go to bed, whether they are horrified at what they produce or whether they are delighted. I don't know. Or somewhere in the middle. Most likely, somewhere in the middle. But that's for God to deal with. If they allow him to do it. And that's the point. If they allow God to do it. And none of my business anymore. But the reality is, that's the situation, isn't it, really? So, yeah, focus on your own crap. Deal with that. Now, people may say, I should do the same. And I do. And I do. But my job as in ministry is to point out the things that church is doing that is basically causing the church to be suffocated by the world. Yeah. Point out the bloody obvious that people can't see. Hoping that maybe some people will be able to see it and will go to God about it and either get it dealt with or leave the places they are in and sort out their relationships with God. Because that's what matters. It's about, pointing people to Father and, And when you get examples that are good in church, you speak about them, but bad, you speak about them. So there you go. You take care. God bless. Speak to you soon. Be a blessing. Be blessed. Bye.